Hi, everybody. I'll be right back. Hi, everybody. Welcome. That graphic said the week that was. I know we're midweek. This is actually hump day. It's Wednesday. I'm doing a live because all day today I was following all these crazy events that happened surrounding Frances Widdowson. And I was going to sit down and make a video. And I thought, I want to play the clips. I want to do it live. I want to hear from you guys. I actually like hearing from you guys. So I'll set the story up. I have a fantastic guest who's going to join me throughout this free for all today. It's Professor Jim McMurtry, who is, listen, we'll all get into him as well, but he's going to join me. And sometimes if we're feeling very brave, and if you're feeling brave, I like to post the link in the comments. And if you want to jump on and ask questions or give your opinion, I'm always happy to hear from you. Just make sure you have your clothes on. It's not that kind of show or whatever, and decent, be respectful, but it'll be a bit of a free for all. So I'll put the link in the comments as we get on a little bit later. I'll put all your comments up on the screen as well. Let me just do that. And okay, so some people are asking what on earth is happening right now. Okay, so let me do the where's my show my comments on stage. Here we go. Let's put those on. Okay, let me brief you on what happened today, and we'll bring Jim on too. So Frances Widdowson released a video on X today. She was invited to go to the CBC studios in Vancouver. And this was earlier in the month. And she thought she was taping a TV show, a normal TV show, talking about her work and what she's done with residential schools and what have you. And as she got into taping, very strange things happened to her. And she had this feeling that she needed to get her phone, and she started to record. And then she live streamed an interview with this man who was hosting the TV show. But what they were actually doing was pranking her. So I'll play bits of the video. This happened. The reason that this is important is that this happened at the CBC studios in Vancouver. I don't know exactly who funded it. Maybe Jim knows and I can ask him that. But I know that it was Forge Media paid her to be there, and APTN also had some affiliation with it. Let's bring in Jim now, and let's see. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Anita. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So, do you have do you have headphones in? No, I forgot to check the headphones.
No, I don't. Am I loud enough? Do you want me to be loud?
Oh, you're totally loud. You might be having a little bit of feedback, but it's not so bad at all. Actually, yeah, I don't think it's no, it's actually pretty good. Okay. So okay, I'm gonna cue up some clips.
Devin, you're too loud. Nora, you're too loud.
No, you're good. No, you're good. No, you're good. Jim, before I'm gonna load up the clip. I think you're getting a bit of feedback. So if you just get headphones, then that might be a little bit better. And I'll start to play the clips, and then we'll come back and then we'll talk about it. Okay? Yeah, so we'll do that. So I'll go back on myself, and then if you get headphones, that'd be cool, because there's a little bit of feedback. Sorry, guys, we didn't check that before. Now I'm going to bring this in. Okay? And this is what Frances Widdowson had recorded at the CBC studios. This is what was happening to her. Okay.
What's this about? Tell me what this is about. Who are you?
Look at the shoes they dumped on there.
This is a pile of shoes that I believe two Aboriginal people came and dumped on the table. This seems to be a setup of some outfit that's doing a reality television show that wants to paint me, I guess, as some kind of a racist or something that they're going to post on social media. What's your name, sir?
Mike Smith.
Mike Smith?
Mike
Yeah,
Smith.
And I think,
Come on.
you got it exactly right. You've defined it precise. Well, I wouldn't say exactly right.
So just for context, she's shooting a TV show in good faith. But the people that brought her there are not doing this in good faith. You can see she's got a big camera crew around her. She is in a studio. And this guy, he says, oh yeah, it's Mike Smith. My name is Mike Smith. His name is actually Igor something, Igor Vamas, I believe.
This is social experiment,
Okay.
and it's on video, and I'm on video too. So we're on video together.
Yeah, we're on video together.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I think that you figured it out, and now we can wrap it up.
Okay, but am I the target? Or you got other people, or are you just focusing on me?
No, you're not a target. No, you're participating.
Okay. What am I participating in?
This social experiment.
Okay, what is the social experiment?
You just experienced it. You could tell me.
What do you mean you could tell me? What kind of, you're the one that set it up and organized it. Okay, Jim, let's stop here for a second. What do you think so far? Let's get your thoughts.
Well, there's a lot of things. I don't have headphones.
Oh,
Anita.
okay.
I'm
Oh,
hoping
okay.
I'm hoping this is okay. I talked to Frances when this was happening. She was this happening in Vancouver. The thing that's really most distressing for me is that here we have a woman by herself in a foreign city, not knowing what's happened. People have her in a room, and then they're trying to do something that's very much against the policy of this. The group that paid for this, for the Indigenous Screen Office, which is part of Heritage Canada. So taxpayers funded this, and Frances is being maliciously embarrassed, and that's something that's not supposed to happen. And when the guy came in and dumped all the shoes, and there are other characters, and you'll talk about them, it was unsettling for her. So you asked earlier, well, who's funding it? Well, again, the Indigenous Screen Office approved it by the part of Heritage Canada. So this is a taxpayer-funded CBC initiative.
Okay, we'll carry on a bit. So she starts to realize that she's being pranked in these TV studios. She did not have her purse or screen recorder with her, and then she said, "Oh, could somebody hand me my purse? I need some medication." So her purse was handed. That's when she pulled out her phone. And so let's carry on with this.
You wanted to get me Frances Widowson, who is a known controversial figure. You wanted to get me to talk about my views in I guess, a candid way, which I told everything truthful. You brought two. Who are these Aboriginal? Were they Aboriginal? First of all, we don't know. I've met people who are Japanese, and I thought they were Aboriginal. So these are two Aboriginal people that you brought in.
Well, I didn't bring Aboriginal people in now.
What?
I work for them.
You work for the Aboriginal. Who do you work for?
For them.
Who is them?
The Aboriginal people.
What does that
Indigenous
mean?
people that you're talking about. So yeah, that's the deal.
I'm sorry, does a TV show host behave like that? I've worked in TV 20 years. You don't act like look at him. He looks guilty, doesn't he? Okay, let's go on.
So there's an Aboriginal group that hired you?
I'm a TV producer.
You're a TV producer who an Aboriginal organization hired?
Not an organization.
Some Aboriginal people, not affiliated with any Aboriginal organization?
Correct.
So just a couple Aboriginal people hired this huge apparatus here. How many people are there here? There's like 10 people here. As a studio. How much did this cost?
Yeah. I think you know the answers actually because you're participating.
What are you? Okay,
So-
sorry. That's also a stupid thing to say. I think you know the answers because you participating. You didn't produce the TV show. Professor Widowson didn't produce the show, right? She's participating. What kind of a guy talks like this? Anyway,
He had to fly me. So I was flown from Calgary to here. I stayed the night in a hotel. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's at least 10 people that I can see in this room that are, and this is like wake up. So they're pretending it was a woke expose, and it's not. It's trying to this seems to be trying to expose me, I guess. I'm
Jim, was she there by herself? You said.
Yes, she was there by herself, and she phoned me. I told you she was
Right.
uncomfortable. She didn't know what was happening to her.
It's very scary, right? Okay. Yeah.
I asked her, and
I'm
she
quite
was
amazed.
also suggested by Jim Heller, who's the lawyer involved in the 215 thing with the Law Society in British Columbia. Anyhow, both of us said that she needed to report this to the police. And
Oh,
since
wow.
then, as you know, this has happened to other people, most prominently Lindsay Shepherd. Just
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
things that your audience
Yes.
might find interesting while
Yeah.
you're talking, the Indigenous Screen Office
Yeah.
is a collection of people in the business of film who are Indigenous. It's fully funded by the CBC. And if you look up on, if you Google the Indigenous Screen Office, and you'll see it's part of CBC, the CBC thing comes up. So this is taxpayer dollars at work.
Oh. Okay. Carrying on.
I have been set up before. I guess I should have done more research about this, but still, I kind of take people at their word when they're doing this. Anyway, and this results in all these kinds of things.
I'm going to shuttle ahead a bit, but I thought it was, it's like almost a blessing that she just showed up in good faith, because she was then able to capture all this. And they talk a little bit more, and there's what this is. I think it gets kind of interesting here, where he starts to realize, I won't blow it, but here they talk a bit more.
Someone who's an unsuspecting person tells some things on camera, and then what are you planning on doing with all the footage that you've shot?
I don't know,
What does that mean?
but yeah, I think now that you were allowed to speak here.
Jim, was he the host? Was this guy the host?
Yes.
Okay. He was the host, and she goes, "What are you planning to do with the footage?" Then this is when a producer would come out, and they would be talking to the guests. That's how it works in normal television. You don't sit there and go, "I don't know." Nobody does that. Who is this hack?
Right, you spoke.
Well, what Francis told me, it was a professor from Simon Fraser University, which wasn't true. It's this guy, and who's has no affiliation, not a professor. So she was hoodwinked.
They told Francis, "You're going to be interviewed by a professor from SFU."
Yes.
And this guy showed up.
Yes, and she assumed that that's who it was.
Wow.
Well, she wouldn't. She is, and her husband is older and frail. She's getting on an airplane. She's coming to Vancouver. They paid for everything, including hotel, and so she's assuming this is real.
Yeah.
And we have to remember, Frances is, she's her whole personality is forged in fire after what she's been through. I think your average female, or male, but certainly female, put in this situation would be quite disturbed emotionally and quite frightened.
Yeah.
And if Frances doesn't come across that way, I think that's more a testament again to her strength. I've been with her. She even said to me one time, one of these university protests, and one where perhaps you were there, and she said that she's prepared to die for this, because the threats against her, it wasn't just verbal, but physical threats. She's being knocked to the ground, and people saying all sorts of things, and things poured on her, and being kicked and poked, and whistles and megaphones blasting in her ear.
Oh, I've seen it.
So this is Frances's reaction. What if it was somebody else who's a little less seasoned for this sort of thing. So this is a terrible tactic. This is a really cruel and unusual treatment of a distinguished scholar here in Canada.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll carry on a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Is it going to be released in its entirety?
I don't know,
Okay.
but
I thought it was a pretty good interview, actually.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, I think you did get to say a lot of things that you've been saying. So,
But I don't quite understand what you're gonna do with it. Like I'm happy for you to publish it widely and whatever. But
yeah.
what is I don't understand what the context is. Like what is the program where it's going to be released on?
Come on, guys, speak up.
What time is it right now? I'm already checked in.
See, this is
Yeah,
a part
but
where a
it's like-
lady says, "Oh, you're going
It's
to
8
miss your
o'clock.
flight," and she's like,
It's
"No,
gonna
I'm
be 8
not. I'm
o'clock. My
fine."
flight's at 8.
If you want, we can continue the conversation later. I'm perfectly happy to call you and talk about it.
I'll call you on the phone. Come on, dude. Let's
Okay.
carry
I
on.
don't know why we can't do it now.
Just,
You're alive right now. This
okay,
is being streamed out live.
right.
Yeah, good for you.
Here's where she says, "This is being streamed live." This whole conversation where they invite her into a TV show and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with the footage. Oh, you got to catch your flight, says some producer. Okay, let's carry on.
It's fine. It's all good.
I've got nothing to be ashamed of. I just don't like being lied to,
Right on.
which I guess I was lied. Well, I'm not sure if I was lied to. I guess I was lied. Well, I was given a sense of it was something different than it was.
Yeah,
But that's kind of part of the thrill of it, I guess.
I think it's trying to get at the truth,
Yeah.
And this is a different kind of discourse, a different.
He's trying to seem so relaxed. Hey, okay, I'll let it go here.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were
Cut
the
the
one
lights.
speaking and nobody else was.
Yeah.
Cut the
But
lights.
That's not true. There was an interview.
The John A. McDonald guy was talking, but he's just he's a plant, right?
Okay, so that's okay. I'll stop that for the moment, but that is just so the audience gets a sense of what happened to her. Invited to a TV show, and it is very scary because she began to describe some people that were looking at her like they hated her. Do you know more about that?
Well, Frances has got all sorts of death threats from Indigenous people, and
Yeah.
in recent years, as have I. To put her in a room by herself, unawares of what's about to take place, surrounded by people who are looking at a hostile, who do have animus toward her, and to come in and dump all these shoes. It's as though they're blaming her for the death of children.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, this is what they're doing. This is, I imagine everybody understands the narrative here. And the John A. McDonald character, that's the tie-in, because part of what they're doing is doing this to others. And I could mention other people, but the one I mentioned already was Lindsay Shepherd. And she wrote a children's book on Sir John A. McDonald. So it's that what they're wanting to do is to present anybody like Frances, Lindsay, or myself, because I've been victimized too, as people that there's something wrong with, that we're the ones that are irrational and dangerous and a problem. But the reality is that all of us are united. Frances and I have been working together for 5 years, ever since I was walked out of my job for saying that there were no graves, missing children, murdered children in Kamloops. So this is a response. CBC doesn't want to ever do a retraction. They let the whole country know about this discovery of child remains in a mass grave. Some children as young as 3, buried by classmates. Some as young as 6. Late at night. I guess that's just the most ghoulish thing to be telling kids in school, and that's what's happened.
Yeah.
So I know, but it's unraveling. Years later, people recognizing what Frances and I said, and have said for a long time now. And Lindsay's Shepherd's part of this, and then there are other people, Dallas Brody here in British Columbia, and so forth. The reality is, we're denialists. We're the bad people. And again, Frances is really a cool cucumber. Like, I don't think it's a situation where Frances couldn't, stand her ground in. But I don't think that's true of most people. I think it was really incredibly unfair what they did to her.
Most people would be very scared. Like a woman like me, I'm very petite as well, but Frances is, I think, even smaller than me, or she's very teeny, but she is tough as nails. She's put up with so much at all these university protests and what have you. Just absolutely the way she's been treated by just looking for the truth has been astonishing. But the thing that really got me about this today was that it was at the CBC TV studios. Now, when I worked at Global, we had our regular news, regular studios where we did our news, and then we had this massive studio where we do all the debates from. Commercials will and TV shows will hire out that studio, and it's so it is quite plausible that somebody could rent out the studio, but we have no idea what they're producing. So there is that. So this company, Forge Media, that was going to do this show, I'm afraid I don't know much about them.
Yeah, I don't think that's a front. That's it. So there are a number of people have already found out today that this is CBC. And again, it's the Indigenous Screen Office, which is part of it, which is taxpayer funded to promote, encourage, nurture, which is a good thing, Indigenous filmmakers. The thing that's disturbing for me, in addition to everything else, is that the Frances has made. Now, this wasn't originally what she was fighting against. She was fighting against what she called the Aboriginal industry. All the money is being made by accountants and lawyers and publicists and so forth, and exploiting Indigenous people. Where we dovetailed is when I, in the classroom, said what was true against the zeitgeist, against all these political winds, and haven't taught since. And the fascinating thing is this is a story that's very upsetting. If there really are 215 murdered children underground in Kamloops, why are we making this into a joke? Why is this something that we want to mock Frances about? I think Indigenous people are really being hurt, Anita, believing that this is how Canadians treated their children, because it's not just at Kamloops. The Murray Sinclair, who was the head of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, said there could be as many as 10 or 25,000 missing and murdered children. And so this is a very serious and sad, if it were real, it would be the worst crime in Canadian history. Maybe almost as many dead as their India disaster, but all children at a young age. So this is not something that you want to mock. And that's what they're doing. And even taking shoes and putting them all over Canada, as done on school, fences and so on. It's just, to me, what people need to do before they start condemning Christian men and women that taught at these schools of again, mass child murder, that they should at least have a discussion and inform themselves. And so instead of taking Frances, who's probably one of the leading experts in Canada right now on residential schools, she's part of the same research group that I am part of, and many other distinguished historians and jurists and so forth, and would be able to tell the people in the studio, tell anybody, that there are no bodies anywhere in Canada. There was no murder. There are fewer kids that even died of disease on these, far fewer than at residential schools than back on the reserves. That these are not genocidal killing fields, that the residential schools were beneficial. And so this is what people like Frances should be asked. Instead, in Canada, she's both frightened and humiliated.
Jim, I want to do two things. I want to play a clip from Global News about the 215. I'm going to find it, and when we come back, I want you to talk to me about it a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your experience, and then I want to play what also happened is, of course, CBC got wind of this story, and so CBC has interviewed Frances. CBC, the reporter is Julia Wong. I used to work with her because she used to work at CHBC, and she used to work for Global. So she went and did this interview. I'm going to play some clips of that too. But before I get to that, let's just remind people what the news was saying. Like, the news, I was there the day we aired this story. I'm going to just find it in my system here. And this, like, you think about it, how much crap Francis is going through when it's the mainstream news that is reporting things as fact. I want everybody who's watching to take a look at the banner. This is Paul Johnson's story. Paul Johnson was actually nice to me, but here we go. I'm going to...
Farah, there's a portion of their property near the banks of the South Thompson River that they've got closed off. That's where the suspected mass grave site is. If this turns out to be what they think it is, this is going to be a staggering and heartbreaking moment in Canadian history.
The Kamloops residential school was run by the Catholic Church. It operated from 1890 until 1977. Among the First Nations children from across BC's interior who were forcibly brought here, there were rumors of deaths and burials in unmarked graves. Now, the Kamloops First Nation says they've found proof.
We do know that they've had members who shared the stories of, cousins and relations and siblings who have been missing. And, the common theme that they've all heard was that their sibling, their sister, their brother, their consultant had run away. With that find, we know that these children did not run away.
Kamloops Chief Roseanne Casimir says a search of the school property with ground-penetrating radar has revealed the presence of at least 215 bodies. From the imagery obtained, they suspect many are small children.
It was very horrifying to learn that we've found 215, remains of children, within our grounds. We were going through grief and loss here, knowing that these were children.
Who were the children? How did they die? What were their stories? All of that is unknown at this point.
Okay, so let me get rid of that. And Jim, what do you make of all that? And can you remind people what you went through and what your background is, where you worked and stuff?
Yeah, I'm a bit of an unusual person in that high school history teacher, but I did a PhD from the University of Toronto on not in Indian education, but in educational history. And so I knew the day that the news broke, which was almost exactly 5 years from now, May 27, 2021, I knew that what was being said. Roseanne Casimir, the chief that was just speaking there, she not only said 215 child remains were found, but she said mass grave. Mm-hmm. And then other stories, again, children as young as 3 when the kids didn't start there until age 7. There never was a parent who said that there was a child missing. No letter. There's just no evidence documentation anywhere suggesting that there was a single child missing. I've done research on it since that shows that there's only 2 children that ever died at the school, and in that long history. And their names were Adrian George and Pearl Joy. One died by accidental strangulation playing a game with other boys, and Pearl Joy, Joe sadly drowned in the river at the base of the school. So the idea that these children, that they don't hang it, there's just no indication that any children have ever gone missing ever at the Kamloops Indian Residential School. So that's the thing. But what you're showing me right there is the global news. We're talking about quality mainstream media talking about 215 child bodies found without a stick of evidence.
Yes, the banner, the font on the bottom. The producers type in the font and they put 215, right? I don't type in a font unless I think it's kind of accurate. And we put that on the news. That was part of my job, is to put the fonts on the news on the bottom. And, I directed the show and stuff like that. But Paul Johnson in the beginning, he's like, if this is true, you can tell Paul Johnson that he was assigned that story. And I think he wasn't sure, but he had to report it that way. And he put the clip in of Roseanne, right? Who quite clear. We're quite clearly, go ahead, telling people 215.
But it's interesting that he's obviously a sophisticated thinker, that you don't end up like you and having a job like that unless you're a very smart person. And so he was obviously uncomfortable with it. And this thinking, there was no thinking about it. Canada, a year later, every single parliamentarian in the House of Commons, October 27th, 2022, called Canada a genocidal nation based on the residential school project. That all came out of this faux discovery in Kamloops. So you have people in the media, people in the political establishment. You have the New York Times, Washington Post. The New York Times still has not retracted its story. The band has, though. The band in 2 years ago said, well, these aren't these. They didn't say they were wrong, but they're now calling them anomalies, and they don't use the word mass grave anymore. But what's important is, for years, kids in schools were told, and universities as well, were told that there was this mass murder of children in one school and then replicated in schools all over the place. So it wasn't, again, just the 215. It was
all over.
Murray St. Clair was saying could be even more than 25,000. Imagine being in a country, Anita, a country where their children are treated this way by their teachers.
Yeah.
And then imagine again, if it's not true, and of course it's not true, and that's why they're never going to dig, because they know there's not a single body, because there's no kid unaccounted for. And they're very careful of knowing who kid was there every single day, because they got paid on that basis. So the thing that's really amazing, if it's not true, then how dare you go around and accuse the Sisters of St. Anne, the Jesuits, and other oblates and others, Catholic ministers of God, of murder. How dare you do that without evidence? That's as you know, that's the ninth commandment in the Bible. You can't bear false witness against people. How dare you? Imagine what would happen to my teaching career. It was bad enough. Look, I'm gone as a teacher. I'm fighting back and I'm standing my ground, but I'm never going to be back in my job. But the amazing thing is, we're doing this against people, but putting a blood libel on people who are dead. They're not here to defend themselves. Yeah. I think that's just absolutely terrible. And so it brings us forward with Frances Littleson. So she was saying, well, this isn't true. There's no factual evidence of it. And what they're doing is they're toying with her. They're humiliating her. They're frightening her.
Yes.
She called me when this was happening. She was calling other people too. I mean, she was rocked. She would call her husband, but her husband's ailing. I mean, she was in a situation. She plays it. I've talked to her since that day as well. She plays it as though, it was a spoof and they set up or whatever. And I got back at them. I got my phone out. Ha ha ha. But it's more than that. This is sinister. And it's not so much what's happening to Frances, because Frances is tough as nails. What's happening is you've got thousands upon thousands, if not whatever the number is, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Indigenous children in Canada today, hundreds of thousands believing that other children like them were murdered at school.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, she is so intensely hated by a lot of people and a lot of students, because they say, how dare you even dare to ask to even dig up graves? But then the band got $12 million to do just that, or they got $12 million to do something. And Frances, I've heard her say, how do we even know there's anything there to excavate in the first place? I'm not saying dig graves and not have respect for the dead. She says, I don't even know if there's any dead there. It has never been proven, correct?
Well, every time there was the two deaths that happened at the school, there was an inquest, and it was a very serious thing taken by the RCMP, and the school was in no way blamed for both deaths. There were no other deaths ever at the school. There's no evidence of that. Now, there are other children that died. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission talked about 51 kids. I looked through that list. Again, I have scholarly background. The number was really 47. They had 4 duplications, and then found since where all these kids were died. In most cases, they died from disease, and they died at a hospital or at home. It sounds like they were in class 1 minute and dead the next, and
that's right.
Everything was done to take care of these kids, get them to live. And the thing, again, another thing that's really incredible is what you touched on, which is really wise. It's this idea that you can't question what elders say. Somehow we've set up and our Supreme that you can go back and this what happened in Richmond with the Cowichan decision. You can go back 7 generations of hearsay. My grandfather's grandfather said, on this one day, whatever, and it becomes established truth in law. And this is what's so weird about this is that we are now legally, politically, educational. What we are now is we're taking at face value anything an Indigenous person says. And so if somebody says, and they made a movie about it that was nominated for Academy Award, as you know.
What, the Dances with Wolves? No.
Sugar Cane in the last Oscars was a Canadian film, was nominated for an Oscar for foreign film on the basis of some Indigenous person said that they were putting babies in incinerators.
Oh, really?
And
my God.
And the person who made the film, it turns out that it was his own grandmother who was put on a cold incinerator in the summer by an Aboriginal mother who was 21 and didn't want the child and know what to do with the child. And all of a sudden that became priests were impregnating girls and then burning the little babies.
In that Oscar movie that you're just talking about, did he tell the story correctly, or was it the latter?
It was complete fabrication.
Gotcha.
So what it did, but the story did happen. There was an Indigenous baby that was, which I'm sorry, I think I got the story. I think the Indigenous baby, I believe was his grandfather. I think I said grandma was a grandfather, but the woman who did it, who put it on, was an Indigenous woman who wanted to get rid of the baby. And in Manitoba today, the number of kids in foster care from Indigenous homes is 26.3 times greater than it is for the national average. Not twice, not 10 times, 26 times more likely. Indigenous family is going to abandon its child.
Ooh.
And so we have a serious problem here in Canada, and we need to help Indigenous people. You don't help them if you lie about priests putting babies from impregnated teenage girls in school in incinerators or on hooks or drowning.
Yeah, and then nominate that for an Oscar.
Chair. They also talked about electric chair at one residential school. Of course, there's no evidence of any of this, just like there's no evidence of a single child missing or murdered in Kamloops. And yet it's gone around the whole world. I had one person who told me that it was the talk of the town in India when this came out.
Okay, yeah, because it made
papers were talking about in India and in China.
It made worldwide news. Okay, I'm going to interject for a sec because I'm going to take the link and I'm going to post it in the chat. It was very brave of me to do this, but if somebody has a question and they feel like they want to jump on, you can click on that link and you can ask us some questions if you like, or give your comments on everything. I'm going to go back to this now. One thing to clear up, Franklin Studios, maybe this wasn't at the CBC studios, or was it at, I actually am not entirely sure. This might have been at Franklin Studios, although I also thought I heard Frances say it was at the CBC studios. So that's something to confirm. But regardless of that, this experience happened to her at a TV studio, and you have told me that the CBC has funded this.
It's in the Indigenous Screen Office, which people can Google right now. It's a CBC affiliated group of Indigenous producers, filmmakers, and it's just in so.
And is APTN
taxpayers pay for it? We pay for the CBC to do a hit job against the leading scholar, one of the leading scholars in Canada on residential schools.
Yeah, exactly. And APTN, do you know if they have a thing in this?
They're part of that too.
They're part of that too.
They're associated with it.
So what happened was, because Frances posted this today, her sort of streaming of that guy, whatever his name was, Igor Vamez, who is really weird. So Julia Wong, who used to work for Global and used to work, I'm familiar with her. She interviewed Frances, and Frances did something very smart, which I recommend a lot of people do. When you're doing interviews with the media, you must record your own screen grabs of it, or screen record your own, right? Screen record it, which she did, which is super smart. I'm going to play a couple of little bits from her, because I bet you I know exactly what Julia Wong is going to do here. Okay, let's I'm going to recue this back here just a bit. And here's Julia Wong from the CBC interviewing her. Here we go.
My questions, Frances. Is there anything you'd like to add that I haven't asked you about, or anything else that you think is important for us to know?
I think that on May 27th, as I mentioned, May 27th, 2026, this is going to be the 5th anniversary of the what I call the Kamloops 215 deception. We really need to have a reckoning about what's happened. In 2021, the whole country and, to some extent, the world was drawn into this. The Kamloops Indian Band has received $12.1 million to do the excavations on that site. And it's only through excavations that we can only find out what really happened. And it's very, very important for all of our institutions now to act so that we can finally have truth about the claim about the 215 children, the remains of 215 children that the Kamloops Indian Band claimed have been confirmed at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School.
Okay, so Julia Wong has just said, is there anything else you'd like to add? And then Frances goes, she says, yes, I want this claim to be addressed. She said this numerous times in the interview. And she said, I am happy to sit down and talk to anyone who opposes or disputes what I'm saying. She has said this to this CBC reporter. I am dying to know, because I don't know when she's going to file the story. I thought she was going to file it for the 6th, but she might do it for later tonight. I would like to know what she's going to put in the story. And you know what I think she's going to do? She's going to frame this whole story about how Frances thinks she's big enough to be pranked. That's what I think, how I think Julia's going to frame it. I'm just going to listen to a little bit more.
Okay, and sorry, one last question for you, Frances. Are you able to share some of those emails that you received from the folks from Forge Media as this was being planned, as that segment with you was being planned, just so we can make sure we do our due diligence?
Sure, I can forward them all to you.
Okay, that would be great. And
I don't know if I'd forward all this stuff to the CBC if I was her, but she's so transparent, Frances. That is the mark of someone who has nothing to hide. Eh? Okay, here we go.
I don't mean to put any pressure. If you're able to do that in the next little bit, because we are hoping to either story tonight on the National, Your World Tonight, and online, it would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, and
there you go, on the National. They're gonna put it on the National tonight. Okay, one more thing.
In terms of the original email from Catherine Wolfgang, Lindsay Shepherd has some of them. Would you like me to get her to forward you those emails?
Okay, and while I re-cue to this other part I want to play for everybody about Frances being glared at, this kind of scary part, Jim, would you mind just telling us, like, do you know what happened to Lindsay Shepherd? Like, Lindsay Shepherd used to work for the Conservative government. She had some opposition about a flag being flown outside the legislature, I think, and then John Rustad fired her. Unfortunately, it's not funny, but everybody gets fired. Do you know anything else more about Lindsay?
Yeah, well, Lindsay, this is her second time that the establishment beat her up. She was a student at Wilfrid Laurier, and she was in big trouble there. Lost her teaching gig because, as a graduate student, because she refused to, because she showed first of all, a little video clip with Jordan Peterson in it, but not wanting to use the pronouns and so forth. So years later, she doesn't want to participate in this hoax about what they're doing. And the Legislative Assembly in Victoria, British Columbia, they're making a big deal on, as you know, on September 30th and May 27th. They're making a big deal, and they're flying the Indigenous flag and so forth, and they're putting it at half-mast. And Lindsay just spoke out against that, and that was enough to have the leader of the Conservative Party, for which she worked, she was working as a staff member, got fired for. So, it doesn't matter where you are. I know a lot of lawyers. They can't open their mouths. I know doctors, nurses. It is every professional, pilots. There are just so many people who airline flight attendants. I know all these people have told me they just can't open their mouths on this. It's the most extraordinary thing. You feel like we're living in Russia.
This is North Korea, for goodness sake. And Lindsay also was approached by Forge Media or this organization to also participate in this TV show.
Yeah, so it happened to her earlier. I believe it was in January. So the same thing happened to her that happened to Frances. And she sat on it and she didn't really know what to make of it. And so when she saw what Frances was talking about, there's several others that have come out as well and said, well, that happened to me as well. So this is, this is a it's not just a one-off. This is, a very determined effort to ridicule. And what CBC does, I will be a monkey's uncle if CBC actually films anything about this, because CBC has avoided talking about this whole denialism thing for 5 years. They don't want to talk at all about the truth. And all that media outlets are doing is they're pretending now is that, oh no, we didn't say 215 child remains found in a mass grave. What we said is this group believe that there could be anomalies in this area, but more research needs to be done. In other words, they're completely changing the story from what they presented 5 years ago, as though the people said nothing at all. No, they said very clearly that there were 215 bodies found. We both heard that, and their bodies. And this idea, and then they're not going to dig. And I'm different than Frances on this one. I have tremendous respect for her, but I don't think it's in the interest of Indigenous people to dig, because there's nothing there.
Yes,
there's absolutely nothing there.
Let's talk about that in a sec. Okay, yeah, let's go. We'll bring that up. Okay, let's play this little just to get a little more context from Frances about what happened to her.
And Frances, sorry, just a friendly reminder, if you can look into your camera as we speak, it'll just look a little bit better on TV. So I apologize for having to remind you about that. Tell me.
By the way, this reporter never asked any follow-ups throughout this whole thing on all the on the important stuff. She just asked a bunch of BS stuff to me. I don't know, but let's listen a bit more.
A little bit. Why you started filming? You took out your cell phone. You started live streaming all of this. What prompted you to do that?
You see, Julia just said you started filming. You started live streaming. What prompted you to do that? So she's gonna, I think, frame this in her story as Frances, Frances did something wrong or something like Frances. Yeah, I think she's going to frame it like that. Like, professor starts live streaming during TV taping. I think it's going to go like that, but let's see what happens.
Yeah. So I usually record my interviews because I need to have a record, but for some reason I was so comfortable with what they had been telling me previously that I didn't have my handheld recorder with me, unfortunately. And I said, I really have to record. I really have to show people what's happened here. I don't know what's going to be used in any kind of future programming. And it might be taken out of context, or I don't know what's going to occur. I assume serious bad actors are involved in this situation. But I had my bag in the other room, which had my cell phone in it.
Okay, here she talks about somebody going to get her bag, but I want to get to another part here.
Because I wanted people to witness.
Yeah.
Why they were confronting you in this manner?
Dakota Hebert and the two Aboriginal men who I have since found out are Ryan Moccasin and Gitz Crazy Boy, who are part of this NLT1 Productions company out of Saskatoon.
Somebody also dressed up as Sir John A. Macdonald. Jim, do you know about that?
Yes, and he's in the picture.
Oh, there's a picture. I know, I have to find it. It's in a different video.
There's a picture of all of them involved in this sitting together.
Right. Okay, here we go.
Happening, and this is part of this elaborate kind of attempts to take me down. And just recently, we found out from Catherine Wolfgang, who is the head of PR at CBC, that it is actually the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and APTN that are behind this. It's part of their programming. And CBC has not been having the discussions that need to happen about this. And I'm extending an invitation. I've been trying to sit down with people like Sean Carlton, Leah Gazan, Kimberly Murray, and I'm happy to sit down with anyone who wants to support this false claim and this idea that the residential schools were genocidal. And that's something that the CBC as a public broadcaster should be facilitating, instead of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on an attempt to take down a person like me, who is not a powerful figure, who has been canceled and fired, wrongfully terminated from their position at Mount Royal University, who I am going to be reinstated because the Labor Relations Board has found that my academic freedom was violated.
That's good.
And so I don't know why these powerful media organizations are not facilitating the open and honest discussion.
She's talking to you, Julia. She's talking to you. Okay.
Of this claim, rather than trying to humiliate me and do whatever they're going to do with this footage.
Okay, I am dying to see Julia's story later. I'm gonna leave it for other people to watch. But so she has said again so many times, it is incumbent upon media organizations to report this. And what do you think, Jim? Somebody said in here, look at her pursed lips. I don't think what do you think?
The mainstream media doesn't even report on it when you have over 1,000 people. You were there at UBC wanting to physically harm me and Francis and Dallas Brody. There were tons of police that were called. We had alter security already. There were people with weapons. There were people throwing things that could have hurt people. The mainstream media does not want this to get out. This is the hoax. And what they're doing, and she mentioned Leah Gazan, who calls herself Indigenous, and she's less than 1/8 Indigenous. She's much more Dutch Jew and Chinese. Anyhow, wanting to put people like Francis and me in jail,
right,
for not having not towing the line on this. So Francis is absolutely right in everything she says. I'll be shocked if the CBC finally wants to address it. And if they do address it, it will be, they don't want people thinking about the fact that the hundreds of billions of dollars that have been shoveled out the door since this false discovery. No one wants to think about that. The deficit of Canada, the annual deficit right now, which is recent from between 60 to almost $100 billion. Well, that's what's given to Indigenous people now every year. If you look at not just the 2 federal departments. So my point is, this is big money. This is something that's very important to Canadians. We need to get to the bottom of that. And the worst of all is being the media. They're not doing their job. They know there are no kids there, and not just in Kamloops, at all the other residential schools. There was no murder. They should retract these stories, and they should say that. And they should say a word in support of the men and women who gave their lives to educate, develop, and uplift Indigenous children.
Wow. Well said. So I'm going to take it to, we're going to go to do an hour. And so I just want to take this time to ask a couple of more questions. You're right. Like CBC, she's on the line now. She's got clips of her, right? I will, what do you call, rat this woman out if she does not report properly on this story. We can end her career. We can put the public pressure on the CBC. And if the CBC wants our tax money, they can go away, get subscriptions just like everyone else. But anyway, while I have you here, Jim, this is what I want to say. Like the media and education, I have 2 boys in school. Well, they're one is older now, but like, the native stuff that they push on them in school is so shoved down their throats that my youngest son is like, I've had enough. Can we move on? They're breeding almost hatred against, you know what I mean? Because they're pushing it too far, just like how they push everything too far. But can you tell me, I mean, like, I think I've talked to you about this before. Overall, how did the kids get to the residential schools if they were so bad? Why did the parents keep sending them? And how bad was it? I mean, I can't imagine there'd be lots of love. It'd probably be kind of cold and hard. But can you describe how did they get there and what was it like? Residential schools, maybe in the 60s and 70s, 80s?
Well, I'm honored that you're asking me. You know, I said at the beginning that I'm kind of an unusual person. I was also My thesis supervisor when I was doing my master's at the University of Alberta was Mark Carney's father, the Prime Minister's father, Robert Carney. And he was considered the leading expert of the day in residential schools. He never said a negative word about them. In 1953, for example, 40% of the kids at residential schools were orphans or kids from abused families, and they couldn't keep the kids in the home anymore. So over time, by the 50s, more and more of the kids were there not so much for education. They were there because they had nowhere else to put them. So they were the precursors of child protection services and foster care and so forth. So they changed. They said that the school closed in 1977. Your global friend reported that's not true. The last high school students were taught in 1959, and the last students that were taught at all, and there weren't many, were in 1969. But they kept the school open for a number of years, and the building is still there because they needed the building, because they needed to house kids. There were so many kids that come from abused homes where there weren't the necessities of life. So these residential schools were that. They were, and I think schools today are becoming that as well. If there's a child in the classroom that doesn't have any food, then you just call the counselor's office, and the counselor will call the school district, and no time at all food appears for the child. If somebody's grandmother died and the kid is dealing with that trauma in class, all of a sudden there's somebody that appears who's a professional psychologist or whatever. So schools are not just there to fill kids' heads. They're there to deal with every aspect of a child's needs. And so the residential schools are the same way. Again, I went through a program, both master's and doctoral, and not a single time did I hear anyone ever talk about them in a negative way. And only a third of the kids at its peak ever went to residential schools. And these are kids that are living in areas. If you have a band of 50 people that are out on trap lines or chasing the caribou or whatever, you can't find a school and have it move with them. So there's some kids you couldn't service through day schools. So they needed to have some schools where they brought in kids. And
can I? Because Native people were very nomadic, correct? They were moving around, moving. Oh my gosh, I've never even thought of the fact that you have to have a school in one place and you send the kids there. I never even thought of that.
And the parents were often away. And that's one of the things as well, that many of these kids were on their own at home. It was far better. They had much better supervision and care and food and everything else at a residential school. The Indigenous people in Canada 150 years ago were terribly marginalized, isolated, impoverished. They would have disappeared as a race. But Canada started famine programs and food relief and all sorts of things, residential schools, all this about 150 years ago. And obviously this so-called genocide is ridiculous, because what's happened in those 150 years is population has grown exponentially. If I could just quickly respond to what your child said, that one of your children saying they're having enough. So first of all, Indigenous kids are having enough of being seen as some sort of as basket cases in school. Right. Every time you speak to them, you have to do it in a soft voice, and you have to go on about how wonderful everything about them is. And so they're frustrated because they're being presented as though they're not capable.
That's right. Yes, my brother, one of my brother's bass player is Native, and he's embarrassed of it. He doesn't want to be treated like this anymore. He works, he pays his taxes. He is sick of the stigma around Native people. So yeah, you're absolutely right. But the other thing is also, you always hear people say, "Oh, you took my culture away. You cut my hair. You took my culture." What do you say about that? Like taking the culture
very quickly away? They're doing that to my grandchildren at daycare. They're telling them about kids having their hair cut and being taken away from their families, never seen again. You never see a picture of a bald kid. So this is all a lie. The only time they ever shortened hair was because of lice. And those kids had all sorts of bugs, not just in their hair, but in their clothing. I don't believe the story of Phyllis Webstad that she ever had a shirt taken away from her that it was orange and all that kind of stuff, because she never even went to residential school. She was never taught by nuns. Anyhow, the whole story is apocryphal. But even if she did have the shirt taken away from her, it's because the bugs on it. So the very first thing is,
Wow.
So you asked an excellent question, and more important than the hair, which is again to help kids. And I recently watched one of my grandchildren deal with lice. It wasn't fun for him either. So don't tell me that it was the wrong thing to do to get rid of the bugs. Anyway,
and mind you, it's okay to get a haircut.
Cut his hair all off.
Yeah,
cut his hair, and they didn't do that to Indigenous kids. They just shortened it. But we cut it right off. They said because the nits, as you know, are in the scalp. It's the only way you're going to be able to see them. So the right thing for the kid is what those nuns and priests did. But the more important thing is this idea of cultural genocide, where the TRC gave out hundreds of so much money on the basis of, billions of dollars, but up to $500,000 per somebody who went there for a few years. Every single child that comes from Rwanda or comes from Ukraine or comes from South Korea, they come in a Canadian classroom that they're going to be acculturated. That I'm part Celt, I'm part Viking. I don't speak a word of any Celtic or Scandinavian language. I don't eat the same food. I don't dress as they did traditionally. I don't know their dances. There's nothing about me left. I'm Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. And if you don't do that, if you don't have a school where everyone's speaking the same language, if you don't tell kids that treating women, because some cultures, treat women terribly. If you don't tell people in Canada that it's important to treat women just as well as anybody else, then we're not going to get along well as a society. So I don't think there's any loss. I think kids are gaining a second culture. This idea that you're taking something away, you're giving them computers and smartphones and Ford 150s, that's destroying their culture, or is that adding to their culture? It's just the most absurd thing. There's nothing in Indigenous culture 150 years ago that is still being practiced today.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Yeah. Oh gosh. You're making me think like I'm obviously Indian. My ancestors from India, born here. I'm Canadian. I'm as Canadian as they come. And we celebrate our little bit of culture at home, or we pray at home. And my mom is Hindu, right? This is what we do at home. But we're as Canadian as the day is long. When my dad came here in 1969, my dad was full on Canadian. In our house, we were listening to LG 73, listening to pop music. My dad was smoking Players Light cigarettes, and drinking Black Label, and drinking Molson Canadian. My dad wore baseball hat and runners, and jeans. He was Canadian, and that's what our family was. So you're absolutely right when you kind of say, that's what we didn't take anyone's culture away. We're all just sort of became Canadian. You're not a Viking now, I'm not walking around in a sari.
There's choice. If you wanted to, let's say, I have so many friends who are sick, but I just, because I lived in Surrey forever, they're all speaking English to their kids. They're not at the Gurdwara. They're out, on the basketball court or whatever, on the soccer pitch. That's a choice. If somebody doesn't want to do that and wants to isolate their children from regular Canadian society, you can do that. But the kids are choosing. So this idea that that teachers were taking away is just so terrible. What education means in its root sense, educere, is this idea of leading out. You want them to be more educated. You want them to have more cultural experience. I lived in Switzerland for 6 years. Do you think I complained about the fact that my kids, after a while, their first language became French and not English? I thought it was amazing that my kids were knowing what raclette is and what wine was. It was just so eye-opening and wonderful. This idea that we want to keep Indigenous people as museum pieces, having them wear raw, hides. And start a fire with rubbing two sticks. Talk to an Indigenous person. The Indigenous person said, "Excuse me." Everybody wants the best. Everybody wants the best for their children. Everybody wants, if their child has got some disease, to have the best medical attention. They don't want someone dancing over top of them. And so it's so insulting to go back in the past. You understand how insulting that is for Indigenous person to be reminded all the time that 150 years ago that they were in a Stone Age culture and everybody else wasn't? Do you think they want to be reminded of that all the time? I think that's just so unfair. I'm telling you, part of my ancestry wasn't so wonderful or noble. I'm sure I had lots of people who were hunters and gatherers not so long ago. I don't think I need to be told that all the time, that I'm, I have a primitive past.
I know, it's so ridiculous. Like, and the other thing is you just made me think of this idea of the noble savage. With the liberals always get very touchy when you say stuff like that. What do you mean? Well, it's true. It's like Native people we tend to Pocahontas it. Like it was the land of Pocahontas. That's what we think of it. But when the fur trade happened and the Europeans came here, it was what it was for the time. I'm pretty sure the natives weren't like, oh, come on in. They were rough people too. They're fighters. They're territorial. Native tribes will fight with one another. The Comanche Indian in the U.S. is probably one of the most amazing warriors ever. Don't sit there and think that the natives were so dumb that they just sat there and were totally obliterated by the Europeans. It worked out the way it worked out, right? Can we not just appreciate that?
That's right. The horse, the wheel, wheat, and now today airplanes. They don't think that this didn't help them. So this idea of we don't have even you're not even supposed to talk about Columbus. You're not even supposed to talk about people coming from Europe here on. It's just the whole thing is it's all terrible and we should decolonialize. Are you kidding me? You really want people to die at age 20? You want handicapped people to be killed at a young age because they're drained on or older people have to walk out on an ice floe and die because they're now they're dependent on the rest of the people, and that's going to hurt everybody's. So no, we move forward as a society, and if we have good ideas that come in, I look at somebody here of Indian ancestry. Do you know what? We got the zero. We got a decimal point. We got the game of chess. We got so much. We got our language. We really got our language and our numeracy from India because there was the Arabs, like the Phoenicians, that transported it out. India was a much older civilization. Mm-hmm. The idea that I'd be going, oh my gosh, we're being colonized by people from India. No, the people in India and in China, of course, before them, because they're the longest continuous civilization. Oh my goodness, we owe so much to you and to the Arabs and to, of course, the very beginning of the Mesopotamians. How dare anyone say that it was wrong to and they say it today, oh, that's cultural appropriation. Mm-hmm. No, that's growth. That's progress.
Yes, it's growth. Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of this stuff. We're doing a live stream. We have 131 people watching right now. Well, that's nice. Does anybody have a question or do they want to jump on? Okay, I'm going to put the link in. I'm like a jump on forcer. I'm trying to see if I'll put the link in the comments if you want to jump on, or if anyone has a question for Jim. He was a professor. He knew you worked with Mark Carney's dad.
Yes.
As you said.
Yeah. And Mark Carney disowned his father. He said, I love my father, but I don't agree with those views.
Yes.
And his father there's nothing his father said that was not factual. And he produced Mark, who had a pretty impressive education. Yes. How dare you condemn Robert Carney?
And why do you think he did that? Because he's all on this undrip stuff, right? He's willing to denounce his father or say, I don't agree with my father. We have differences, so that he can show himself as someone who's as an undrip cheerleader.
Yeah, but people, this is what's wrong with my father was a politician. I want to correct it. I wasn't a professor; I was a college lecturer.
Oh, okay. So,
but I have a PhD, so I could have. But
you're a doctor.
I'm an able-bodied, older white male, conservative bent.
Oh, nobody likes you.
I think anyone's going to hire me. I look at the people that I meet at university, many of them, and I go, you got that wrong. I'll go slower. But I mean, this is what they're doing. It's a program right now of woke indoctrination. As you know, Mark Carney would not have become leader of the Liberal Party and would not be there today if he wasn't playing games. Mark Carney, I'm sure if you took him aside one day and asked him, what he really thinks about these things, that he would have intelligent, reasonable, realistic things to say. But he's wearing the cloak of a woke manipulator cultist, and they have to pretend all sorts of things, including children are born in the wrong body. And he has a child who's pretending that she's the boy. And I mean, what could be worse than enabling a child to go against nature and to become sterile and never experience orgasm and to be seen a freak for the rest of your life? and to be depressed and much more likely to kill yourself. I am so much against the woke program. But I was before I was fired. And I know so many other teachers and kids are as well. And your little ones, oh my gosh, the one that is getting frustrated. Yeah. I already said that Indigenous kids don't like being centered out as hopeless and need a crutch. The moment, if you're teaching a class, I teach French, for example, or history or English, and sometimes it gets difficult. And I say, oh, this one kid's not getting this or whatever. And because they're always asking, how are the Indigenous kids are doing? Well, I got a problem with the Chinese kid. We're not interested in the Chinese kids. The Indigenous, the Black kids, whatever. And okay, the Indigenous kid, I've got one Indigenous having a problem. Well, we'll take him out of your class and we'll do one-on-one. And then you go down to where they're doing one-on-one with the kid, and the kid is just talking to friends and looking at his phone. So my point is, the moment you try teaching these kids and you give them specialized programs, you're taking them out of the challenge of a regular classroom. Yeah. And socialization. You are damaging the whole woke program. And Francis would say this is about hurting Indigenous people. These virtual signaling, lip servicing frauds that say, oh, I do everything I'll give away my land, which of course they're never going to do. I'll give away my house. I'll do everything. It's stolen. They are the worst people in the world for Indigenous people, because they're not making them accountable. They're going to never raise their children properly unless they're told that you have to raise your children properly. You have to make sure they get to school. You have to make sure they do their homework. You have to make sure that they're getting 3 good meals a day. We don't do any of that. We go, oh, you're Indigenous. Here, we'll take your kid, or here, and we'll build your own schools. Do your own welfare on the reserve. And here's another few $1 billion.
Such a good point. It's like, if you single everybody out or single them out as special, you're just making them into these soft, lily-livered people that can't stand on their own 2 feet. It is 2026 now. So we have to move forward. We can't be sitting there going, oh, well, the Europeans came and they were mean to the natives. Listen, I'm sure it wasn't like that. Treaties were signed. We've moved on. Do you want to be a wimp? Do you want to be singled out? Or do you want to be on a level playing field? Right? And so before I think you would agree. Now, before we go, can we talk a little bit about, are you following the Carrie Lynn Finley, Peter Millibar story, and the fact that Peter Millibar's wife worked as a part-time receptionist, and now the media and CKNW is kind of attacking Carrie Lynn? Do you have any thoughts on how that's going?
I think I broke it a few days ago, because I talked about I put out about him. He's saying, my whole family is Indigenous. And so the moment a white guy marries an Indigenous woman, and she's not even part of the band originally anyhow, but her children or grandchildren are now part of card-carrying members of the Kamloops band. And but he's saying for the rest of the time, Peter Millibar's family is Indigenous. He also said that his commitment is first to his family, and then it's to his community. And his community is an Indigenous band. And this guy is running to be the premier of a province that is mostly 98% non-Indigenous. We're completely hooped in British Columbia. People don't call these people out. They're going to give all the land and all the money on the basis of ancestry to a small group of people who are going to lord over us. And we'll have no say. That's going to start a civil war. I know people who are already in Kamloops, for example, who have already bought guns. Like, what are we doing? Why are we in schools or anywhere else treating kids differently on the basis of ancestry? A kid's a kid. Treat the kid like the kid has dignity and matters unto him or herself. It shouldn't matter the color of the skin. Martin Luther King taught us that. It shouldn't matter any of those things. What are we doing? I don't care what any judge says or anybody in the past has said. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. We all have equal rights, equal opportunities, equal before the law. Every kid in my classroom matters the same. I got in so much trouble. I said to people, I almost got one job as a professor. And they asked me, how am I going to treat Black kids? And I said, like any other kid. Right. And that was just ended things. And they said, well, of course I'm sensitive. I'm sensitive to all kids. Why would I treat you? They want me to be the racist. They call, we're an anti-racist. They want me to be a racist. And then I get promoted. Like, it's just the most disgusting thing in the world. We should get rid, and this is something that Lisa Bildy talks about, brought in Free Speech Union of Canada. She talks about we need to remove all our elites. It's not going to happen. We have been failed, not by ordinary Canadians. We have been, not by immigrants at all. Immigrants are much smarter and they get this. And as soon as there are enough immigrants in Canada, then this Aboriginal stuff is going to be thrown out the door in a hurry. We just need more immigrants before that happens. But the thing
More
is,
immigrants?
yes, because immigrants, like hardworking people from China and India, are not, I'm not saying bring them in large masses. I'm against mass immigration. I'm for bringing people here that we can support and contribute to society and make sure that all Canadians have jobs. My point is, as the immigration population grows, they're going to get rid of the woke stuff. I have so many people that I know, they say, we don't want that. We want our children to learn and to work hard and to be competitive and to know failure. We don't want their child anything other than traditional academic values. And so they don't buy the woke stuff. So as Lisa Bilder said, we got to get rid of the elites. They're buying into something because they think it's serving and they're promoting. And you've got judges today in Canada who are signing whole cities in British Columbia, Richmond, Kamloops, Seychelles, all of Haida Gwaii Islands, to people based on ancestry. And one day there's going to be killing over it. It's just absolutely deplorable that you would ever say that you're less because of your ancestry or your race. I would never treat somebody else less on that basis. How dare anybody do that to me?
Yeah. Oh, so smart. I learned a lot from you in this conversation today. This was really good. Listen, everybody who's watching, I encourage anyone to follow Jim McMurtry on X, follow Frances. She has a YouTube channel and you just type in her name and you can watch all these videos that we talked about today in full length. And I think to end off today's show, I think that by all of this wokeness trying to be non-racist, don't be racist. We're going backwards. We're becoming more racist what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? When you just make everyone stand out, to separate everyone, to put this person in this group, to give everybody special treatment. They're Native, do this. They're this, do this. They're Indian, do this. You got to be nice. It's like we're breeding and cultivating racism instead of erasing it. I think that's obviously what's going on. This is backfiring, but on purpose, right? Yeah. We got a mess, Jim. This is a mess. It's a hot mess. And if somebody comes and takes my house, I'm going to get a bow and arrow. Okay. And I'm going to, anyway, thank you guys for watching today. I just wanted to hop on. Thank you, Jim, for helping me make this show because it was very last minute. Thank you to all the guys watching. So I'm going to leave you now. We're going to wrap it up. If you like my YouTube channel, it's Anita K. Please follow me. Please like, subscribe, share, do all those things. It helps push my little algorithm out. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And good night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Night.
Wow, that